Check out my totally tubular review, dude, of this Criterion release of Fast Times at Ridgemont High, dude. Stay tuned. What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel. I am Ken, here today to review the Criterion release of Fast Times at Ridgemont High. So I got this one a couple of weeks ago, and to be honest with everybody, I wasn't sure if I was going to review it. I had it on the schedule for last week, had it bumped for the Last Action Hero 4K release. But yeah, I ended up watching this last night, and I was so blown away by this film, which we'll get to in a second, that I just had to get on here and talk about it with you guys. Like, this is seriously one of the best releases of the years, and I can't wait to talk about it. But before we do that, guys, I want to ask that if you are not yet a subscriber of the Mid-Level Media channel, please hit that subscribe button for more great content. I do all kinds of stuff on this channel, mostly centered around the world of physical media, Blu-ray reviews, 4K reviews. I do weekly physical media updates called the Physical Media Report. I do live streams with other collectors every Tuesday night for World's Biggest Collectors. I also do Blu-ray hunts, Dollar General hunts, lots of vlog videos. Definitely, if you love physical media, Blu-rays, 4Ks, DVDs even, hit that subscribe button for more great content. Also, be sure to like this video, guys, and comment down below your thoughts on either the movie Fast Times at Ridgemont High or this Criterion release if you have bought it. So let's get into the movie, guys. And yeah, I thought I haven't reviewed a Criterion release in a long time. To be honest, I haven't reviewed a Blu-ray in a really long time. I've been doing a lot of 4K reviews recently, so it's nice to kind of go back and give the Blu-ray some love with this review. And yeah, like I said, wasn't gonna review this. I love this movie so much that I just had to talk about it with you guys today. So how we usually structure these reviews, guys, I'm going to talk about the movie, I'm going to give the movie a score, and then I'm going to go into the packaging, the audio-visual quality, and then cover the special features and let you all know, as an entire whole package, is this worth a pickup? Is this worth your time, your money, and investment? Let's start off with my thoughts on the movie. This movie is directed by Amy Heckerling. I hope I'm saying her name correctly, who, if you don't know who this is a very notable female director from the 80s and 90s. She directed this movie. This was her first feature film. Then she went on to direct Look Who's Talking, Look Who's Talking 2 with Kirstie Alley and John Travolta. And then she would go on to direct the comedy high school coming-of-age classic in 1995, Clueless, starring Alicia Silverstone. That's probably the most notable of her filmography. So yeah, really great director right there. Then you have Cameron Crowe, who's a writer. He actually wrote the book Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and then also wrote the script for Fast Times at Ridgemont High. So he's a very notable screenwriter. Then it's starring Sean Penn, starring Judge Reinhold, Phoebe Cates, Jennifer Jason Leigh. It's even got a cameo by Nicolas Cage in this movie. Forrest Whitaker is in this movie. This cast is absolutely insane across the board. But getting into just how I feel about this film myself. So let's give you a little bit of backstory. So I've seen this movie before. This was not a first time watch. I watched it back in 2005, and I think there was some kind of a special edition DVD that came out back then. So I bought it because a lot of people had hyped this movie up as like one of the best like 80s comedy classics of all time. It was hyped to that degree. So I bought the DVD. I watched it and I didn't laugh. I didn't think it was all that funny. So as a result of that, I decided that I just didn't like this movie. So I moved on, never watched it again until this Criterion release was announced. And then I'm like, maybe I just wasn't watching it in the right way. So I ordered the Criterion. I wanted to get it because this cover is absolutely insane. We'll get to that with the packaging. And then decided, to give it another chance. And I'm so glad that I did, because this movie is absolutely stunning. It's such a realistic, honest, raw representation of high school life in the 80s. It reminded me a whole lot of Dazed and Confused, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, and one that also has a Criterion release that's sitting back there that I need to rewatch at some point. But to me, this was even more raw and even more real than Dazed and Confused felt when I first watched it. So just a stunning movie across the board. The cast in this movie, like I said, absolutely fantastic. They're not necessarily giving the greatest performances, but they're just so true to their high school characters, and they just feel like high schoolers. They feel like real kids in this movie. You know, they have jobs, they work in the mall, they work at the theater, the restaurant. They talk about sex in a way that a lot of people don't talk about it, especially in films today. Like, to see the scene with Phoebe Cates and Jennifer Jason Leigh from the very beginning where they're talking about sex and how she was 13 when she first had it, and she's trying to get Jennifer Jason Leigh into it, who is 15. She's got a 26-year-old hitting on her. She has sex with a 26-year-old. It's all just so raw and honest and uncomfortable and in your face that you feel wrong when you're watching it, or that you're even supporting it. Your first thought is to be like, a 26-year-old with a 15-year-old, gross. That's absolutely disgusting. But the way it's presented and the way it's laid out there, because she's lying about her age, and just how it's filmed, it's just so authentic that I don't see this movie being made now, but also, like, it didn't offend me. So yeah, like I said, like, there is some comedy in this movie. I'm looking at Sean Penn as Spicoli, who has become kind of the iconic character of this film. And to look at Sean Penn and what he went on to do with doing his dramatic acting and directing and all the great things that he's done in his career, it's so funny to go back and look at him as this character, because he's just like total surfer dude, man. And he's an absolute blast in this film, the definite comedy highlight of it. But then you also have Judge Reinhold, who also has some very comedic moments as well. Thinking of the pool with Phoebe Cates coming out and him doing the act in the bathroom to her as she's getting out of the pool and he's fantasizing it, which is just a great scene. It's like the iconic scene of the film. So it's not a ton of comedy. And like I said, I watched this as a comedy when I watched it back in 2005. And that's the entire wrong way to watch this movie. This is a drama, coming of age movie, a teen angst, drama-filled, just raw representation of high school life in the 80s. Like, you can't watch this movie in the same way that you watch Animal House or National Lampoon's Vacation. Like, it's not like that. It's not a comedy like that. It is way more leaning on the drama side than it is the comedic side. So once I understood that and what this movie is and what it's going for, I just loved it all that much more. And Phoebe Cates is such a great presence and just brings such a charm and charisma to herself in this movie. Obviously the pool scene, but Jennifer Jason Leigh, who probably does get credit for this, I don't ever hear about it. She's never brought up when this movie is brought up, but she gives such a commanding, strong female performance in this film. And yes, she is vulnerable in scenes, and yes, she is having things happen to her that probably shouldn't be happening to her, but she is in control all the time of what happens to her in every single moment. And then you had the sex scene between her and the guy, the friend of the other guy that works at the movie theater. They're having sex in the pool house and they strip down nude, and you see the full frontal male nudity in that scene that was taken out actually for the theatrical release of this movie and put back in by Criterion. It was taken out because it would have got an X rating and they wouldn't have been able to clear it to be shown in theaters back in the 80s. But thanks to Criterion, we have that scene now added back in to the film. And Amy Heckerling thought that scene was very necessary for her vision of the film, so I'm glad that they got that in there. As for the direction of this movie, Heckerling does such a fantastic job with the direction. This movie feels, like I said, very raw, very realistic, very honest. I've used those words tons of times, but it feels almost in the same way a Scorsese film does, just the way that it's directed, just the pure style and substance of this direction and the way that the camera moves through each shot is just so like next level. Like, she is fantastic in this movie. It makes me want to check out more of her filmography for sure. The soundtrack in this is absolutely fantastic. From the very beginning, when you hear that Go-Go song, We Got the Beat kick in, it just instantly transports you and puts you in that 80s nostalgia mood, which just elevates this movie all that much. And I'm just a sucker for 80s nostalgia anyway. So you pop in a good 80s song to your movie and I am just there for it all the way. So absolutely fantastic soundtrack with this. So guys, I'm going high as the score for the movie for this. I don't think this is a perfect film. I think that there are some flaws, but it's kind of perfect in its flawed nature. So for that reason, I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5 for the actual movie. Fantastic film that I could see just moving up the ranks of some of my favorite films of all time. Absolutely love this movie. So let's get into the packaging of this, guys. And I'm going to cut to a little unboxing. But yeah, the artwork on this, absolutely fantastic. You have kind of like the racing plaid right there with the colors, and then the people and the bubbles around it. I just love the artwork on this one. You have the reverse, and we're going to show off the special features right there. Open it up, and I love that this doesn't really have disc art, but it just has the title of the movie on it. You take that out and you have not really anything on the back. It would have been nice to have a little scene on the back, but you have this cool little booklet right here, guys, with all kinds of shots and moments from the movie. Definitely a cool little feature to add in there as well. So the packaging is really nice. Now, I do wish it was a digibook like they did with Dazed and Confused, and just kind of more of a packaging deal with the slipcover, but we got the original standard Criterion cover, which is not my favorite. But again, the artwork on this is freaking awesome. So it makes it a little bit better. Getting into the visuals, guys, I thought that this movie looked fantastic. There were a little quality issues in the beginning. This is a 4K digital transfer downgraded to 1080p, so this is going to look better than any other Blu-ray release on the market because of that. So I thought the picture quality was extremely sharp. The coloring is nice. Of course, I'm going to show you some images of that pool scene with Phoebe Cates getting out, because that's honestly where I feel that the visuals of the film really excelled. They made that scene look so incredibly picture perfect, and just the coloring and just how sharp it looked. If there was one scene they had to nail, it was that one, and they absolutely did it. So the visuals for this are fantastic, guys. Audio, it has a DTS HD with a 5.1 surround sound. It sounds great. The mix is fantastic. The soundtrack just makes it pop that much more. So absolutely loved the audio on this as well. Now, getting into the special features of this is another spot where I think that this release excels, because you do have the 1999 documentary of Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which is dated, but it's still a really good documentary. You have the audio commentaries. You have the TV version of this film, which no doubt cuts out all of the nudity, which I don't know if I mentioned this in the review. This movie has so much nudity in it. It's like crazy. It's like an 80s slasher film with how much nudity that this has in it. So yeah, there's also just a really fantastic interview Q&A with Olivia Wilde, who's the director of Booksmart, also a notable actress as well, and Amy Heckerling and Cameron Crowe. And this is a recent interview because it's over Skype, so it was obviously done during the quarantine. This was taped in 2020, so it's very recent. And it is such a fantastic interview. It's like 35 minutes long, and they just really go in to their love of the film. Olivia Wilde, you can just tell she's such a fan of this movie. This is like one of her favorite movies of all time. She said this is the inspiration for her film, Booksmart, and you can just tell that she really loves the movie, and she is genuinely excited to talk to both of them about it, and that shines through and just makes that interview all the more better. And I don't always sit through a lot of these interviews all the way through. I sat through all 35 minutes of this, and it was absolutely entertaining from start to finish. So I think that that's a great new special feature to this release, and absolutely in and of itself worth the purchase for this. So at the end of the day, guys, this is $27.99 on Amazon. I think it's absolutely worth it. I think it's a fantastic Criterion release. Of course, you could wait till July for the 50% off sale at Barnes & Noble Books and get it for $20, but I'd have to recommend that you buy it right now. It's a fantastic release. I absolutely loved everything about it. I love this release. I love the movie itself. Just freaking awesome from start to finish. Yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed my review today of Fast Times at Ridgemont High. If you can, please like this video. Also, comment down below your thoughts on the film itself. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Turn on those bell notifications for all future videos and reviews, and we'll see you next time.